Hi. Hello, I'm Haley, and this is The Witch's Lair. This episode today is going to be covering the uh, Sabbath of Imbolc, which is the point between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. So, the turning of the seasons, the wheel of the year is something that's very sacred to me and where I started my path, going from season to season, following how the earth flows and how it changes, and it's beautiful, just constant cycle means something to me and is a way of me connecting to the earth the most, the earth element. And so I started teaching about the pagan Sabbaths about a year ago, I really enjoy the topics. I have a altar that I change out every season to match the seasons. And so I just did my one this past weekend for it, for I'm Bulk. It's all set up in my living room, and I thought it would be really good to share the Sabbath with y'all that's coming up on February 1st. So yeah, we're going to be talking about all things Einbolg. So starting with the celebration of the light of the year is the season Einbolg. It's in its Gallic form, it's technically more pronounced Einbolg. The thing is with pagan Sabbaths, dude, there's so many ways to pronounce it, and we're American, so we're gonna butcher it the way that I see it. So I don't ever sweat it. I don't give people a hard time. Like the one that you'll hear the most mispronounced is Samhain, which is Samhain for Americans, and that's Halloween for us, Samhain. So I never judge anybody for it. Like, dude, as you're celebrating it, that makes me happy. Like, congratulations. So no tea. But yeah, it just depends on the region that you're in too of how they pronounce it. So if we're American, we're gonna pronounce it Imbolc. So sound it out. But it's also known as Candlemas, Bridget's Day, and also Ladies' Day. And in certain regions, it's also pronounced the day of Olmlec, Olmelk. It's really, I'm going to butcher these names. So if you butcher them, don't worry. I'm doing it just as bad as you are. So no worries. But it's known by several names, reflecting in its various cultures and influences. And the name highlights the celebration of light, Candlemas, as candles are often lit to honor the returning of the sun for this time of year. But in Celtic tradition, Bridget's Day, Bridget being the goddess, one of the most powerful, revered goddesses that I know of. She represents fertility, healing, poetry, craftsmanship. She's a blacksmith. So this day is dedicated to her, marking the renewal of energy and life. So love to see her. Now, the Gallic word of ewe's milk is another name that they use for Imbolc, and that's the one that I'm butchering right now. So it's Oimelc, however you want to pronounce that. I would look at it and I would want to say it's O milk, because ewe's milk sounds very similar, but the name came in the Gallic form because it talks about when sheep start to lactate and prepare for the lambing season. Because when we look at Imbolc, it's the belly of the mother is one of the names that it has because it's this time where animals are waking up and they're starting to get mating and get pregnant. It's all about fertility. So talking about the sheep lactating is in preparation is very appropriate because we have to think about these pagan Sabbaths. They go back to when this all started. We were all just farmers. We had to all be farmers to survive, and then some, tradesmen. But so the seasons are always talking about animals and where they're at in their rituals. So we're talking about mating season now, and then when you get to Mabon, you start talking about slaughtering and harvesting, and when you get to the very last one right before Yule, it's the last harvest. So there's three harvests, and the last one is when they slaughter the animals and start smoking meat, so they have enough to prepare them for the winter season to come. So don't be surprised as you go through each one of these. There are seven of them. Um, don't be surprised when you go through them, but they're always talking about an animal and where they're mating and when they're getting pregnant and when they're having babies. But it's very traditional. So, but also Ladies' Day, it's a Christianized version of the holiday and also links with the Virgin Mary and some traditions. So, depending on the region, depending on the religion, it's depending on the day. I'm bulk, Ladies' Day with the Christianized version of it, Ostara, Easter. so on and so forth. You know, Yule, Christmas, we all have our own thing going on. So, but again, like I was saying, Imbolc translates in the belly of the mother in Gaelic. And its name is deeply connected to the earth and the cycles of nature with the in the belly of the mother. And it speaks to the idea of gestation and early stages of new life. It symbolizes the time when the seeds of the earth are beginning to stir, and though they are still hidden beneath the surface, much like a pregnant mother awaiting the arrival of new life, it's time of potential and promise. So, love to see it. Everything's getting planted. But it's roughly falling on February 1st, though it can be celebrated a little bit earlier or later, depending on the traditions you follow. Me personally, when it comes to Sabbats, I don't think of them as just one day. Um, a week at minimum, and then some of them are a full month. The summer solstice and the winter solstice, the equinoxes, that's a whole month for me. Um, Especially the winter and summer. The solstices are for sure a whole month for me. Um, and so don't ever feel like you're missing it or, oh, I missed February 1st. I missed it. No, you still have time. Engage with the season. Get out there, especially when we're in different regions and how things blossom and bloom. You know, in Texas, we're actually usually Imbolc when it starts, we're still in a freezing point. That's when our freezing hits really bad is February. So I really don't see Imbolc energy until March 1st. And so a month later. And then like with Easter, I really don't see that energy until April. So we're kind of like a month behind, I feel, in Texas because just of how things spin. So again, don't focus on the human calendar. Focus on what's around you, because that's more important than the actual date itself. Also, you might see my cat. So Beatrice is co-host of The Witch's Lair. I mean, it's The Witch's Lair. How am I not going to have a cat? But anyway, so this is when we begin to feel the shift from season. Winter is still present, so it makes sense for Texas, but there are signs of coming spring. So it's the midpoint between the winter solstice and the spring equinox, marking the return of light and awakening of the earth after the long winter's rest. So just starting to get out of those icy stages. Um, but when we're looking at the timing of it, like I said, you know, it's not just the date, it's more than that. So zodiac wise, it's Aquarius season. The zodiac sign most closely associated with Imbolc because they're at the same time. And Aquarians are often seen as forward thinking, innovative, and connected to the collective consciousness. And the sign is about breaking free from old traditions and embracing new possibilities, making it fitting energy from Imbolc because it marks a time of renewal and potential growth. And that's what they say Aquarius is all about. So fresh, 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 fresh. Solar correspondence, it's going to be the moon, and its correspondence for Imbolc. While we think of it being the sun because you know the sun's melting the snow and it's making the plants grow and blah blah blah, because it represents light and warmth, the moon actually brings in the softer, more introspective energy of what Imbolc is. As the moon is also associated with the rhythms of the earth, intuition, and emotional connection, which resonates with the Imbolc themes of gestation, nurturing, and quiet preparation of life. The moon reflects the hidden, subtle process that happens under the surface, much like the growing potential within the earth during the time. So, you know, again, talking about the mother, the moon, you know, we see it often with Cancer energy, which is ruled by the mother. It's very, I mean, it's ruled by the moon, which is the mother when you look at the moon. So they go very much hand in hand. So it's that nurturing womb feeling, you know. But yeah, so we're looking at the moon, but we're also looking at the new moon phase. So if you go by the my freaking cat. If you go by the moon phases with the seasons, you're going to be recognizing this one more with a new moon. And that's closely linked together because of the time again, it's new beginnings, setting intentions, planting seeds, um, so just like the moon is hidden in the sky during the new moon, this phase is about the unseen and inner work. So it's a great time for quiet reflection, focusing on what you want to bring into your life. And it's a time to prepare, plan, and listen to your intuition as the new moon represents fresh starts and opportunities for growth. So with the path as a witch, you know, with the new year, we just got through January 1st of 2026, and everyone's making New Year's resolutions and goals and things like that. For us witches who follow these Sabbats, that's not when we set our intentions. The winter solstice, I take off. for the winter solstice, not from my muggle job because I have bills to pay, so that's impossible. But from hosting women's circle and doing any really like big gatherings, I don't do that during the season because well, my son is a Sagittarius, so I really can't be social with friends during that time because it's his birthday season. And then we roll into the Christian Christmas season, which we all were raised on. And even though I celebrate Yule, I still celebrate Christmas. But I take that time off because the winter solstice is about a time to sit down and reflect and look at all your work for the past year and, you know, think about how things went and really reflect on them in a way of like, how do I want to word this? You're looking at them for what they are and you're seeing them and you're not releasing everything, but you're looking at the lessons that you had, what you learned from it, and how you feel about those topics going forward further. And moving forward. It's like I went through these situations and at the time I felt this way, but now I'm on the other side of things. Things have calmed down and looking back at it, this is how I feel about it. And these are the things that I do need to release from it. And so with Yule and Imbolc, they're very closely associated because not just because they're right next to each other, but they're a very long period of introspective work and turning inward and looking at yourself and looking at your shadow and looking at the things that not that you need to let go of, but things that you need to really remember. We get in these spaces where, like, for instance, for myself, yesterday was overwhelming. It was so overwhelming from work to personal life, my kid, bills. It's just, it all stacks up. And I was sitting there in this space of just being frustrated and upset. And I was able to notice when I'm in that energy because of the situations around me, but then I start having these other feelings because of like a friend not texting me back. And I text them 2 hours ago and they're not replying to me. And then you start to stew. You start to stew. And it's like, well, why are they by their phone? And we always have our phones in our hands. Like, what the hell? It's like, okay, pump the brakes. Where is this coming from? And it's like, okay, well, we're actually we're speaking from a wound right now. We're not speaking from actuality because again, I know that we're not always on our phone. I know that they're doing something. It's, the evening. We've got dinner and bedtime and prep for the next day and mental capacities are shit, just like my own mental capacity. And I know that when I'm in a good space, if somebody's not texting me back as fast as I want them to, I know it's nothing personal, it's all of these reasons. But when we're having a worn out day and we're in this bad space, that's not how we're thinking. That's not our default response to things. And so when we sit down and we reflect on the year, we reflect on these situations and we sit there and see, well, where is this coming from? Do I actually feel like that? Well, no, I mean, I usually default to this emotion here. And I have to remember that, we give people grace and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm bulk and Yule was really about the season to look inward and look at these situations that you went through for the year and see where your growth is and see where you still struggle and where those triggers are and how we move through them. Because I think as we acknowledge these wounds more for what they are and how we respond to them, I think that's where your healing really is because you're able to work around them and release them. Because I don't think that we're ever fully healed. I don't ever really think that we let things go 1,000%. But I think that when we can acknowledge them in that way, it helps us move through it. So with Yule, with Iron Bulk, it's a season to really dig into that and look at it. I don't know about you, but one of my grounding practices is I journal every day. At first it was like, dude, writing is so difficult because we're so used to texting and talk texting. I'm a talk text queen. I love me some talk text. Don't make me type it out, even though I type really fast too. I'm a very fast typer. But writing, it really slows you down and it gets you conscious. And every morning I shuffle tarot cards. I think about what I've been juggling and I my cat. I think about those things and how I want to navigate out of them because I want to stand in power and I want to always come from a place of balance and that's really asking for a lot, I feel. But when I do these practices and I reflect, it really helps me ground and navigate through them so it's easier to carry. And that's very 10 of Wands. But yeah, so going completely off topic here, look, shortly. But it's an reflective type season that we're in with Imbolc. And we're right at the edge of it because now we're starting to plant the seeds of going forward into the new year. Even though the witch's new year is technically Samhain, it's all very backwards. But the pagan new year, I feel, is right now. Okay, we got through the season. We're getting into a new one. How are we going to navigate this year? Because when you get to Ostara, you're really planting those seeds of intention. We're looked inward, we figured out our shit. Now it's the time to move forward. But anyway, so its element is fire. It's a central part of Imbolc, symbolizing the return of the warmth of the sun and the fire's transformation. This is the spark of inspiration and passion that fuels new growth, and the fire represents purification, energy, and illumination. So during Imbolc, fire plays a symbolic role as we celebrate the increasing of light, and candles and flames are often used in rituals to honor the process of the spiritual and physical awakening of the season. As you go through pagan Sabbats, there's always a bunch of correspondence. What tree, herb, crystals, colors, it's always things like that. But I love that because it helps me honor the season, and then I use them in my altar. So trees, we're gonna have blackthorn, cedar, rowan, and sycamore. I have a nephew named Rowan. Blackthorn represents protection and transformation, so you'll understand why these are associated. Cedar is healing and cleansing energy. Rowan is a sacred tree associated with protection and empowerment. Sycamore is going to also symbolize transformation, but inner strength too. Herbs of angelica, basil, blackberry, bramble, and oat. Uh, Angelica is a protective herb for spiritual cleansing and clarity. Basil is purification, prosperity, and vitality. Blackberry bramble is abundance, protection, and resilience. And then oat represents growth, fertility, and abundance. You also have crystals like amethyst, turquoise, carnelian, bumblebee jasper, orange calcite, tiger's eye, citrine, and sunstone. Another thing that I will butcher is the pronunciation of a crystal. I hate it. I'm working on it. We all struggle. All right. I'm dyslexic. I sound things out and I'm going to butcher a name. I don't know if you've ever had seen someone read Irish names off and looking at the spelling of it. I would be completely. But anyway, so amethyst, it's a spiritual awareness and calming stone, amongst many other things. Um, Amethyst is actually one of the 12 gemstones of Revelation. So if you look up in the Bible, you will see amethyst. Love to see her. Turquoise is healing and spiritual truth, throat chakra. Carnelian is vitality, creativity, action. Carnelian is also the sacral chakra, so it's going to talk about fertility and sex and passion and things like that. Bumblebee jasper, renewal, transformation, and happiness. Orange calcite, creativity, joy, and vitality. Tiger's eye, clarity, focus, and protection. Citrine is abundance, positivity, and success. It's also joy. Sunstone is vitality, leadership, and strength. You're going to have colors like light blue, light green, white, and orange. And so it's talking about light blue and green is growth and renewal. White, purification, clarity, and new beginnings. Orange is creativity, vitality, and energy. So, you're going to hear a lot of repeat words when I go through this because it's all about what? Renewal and transformation and new beginnings. Get used to me saying that shit through this whole freaking podcast. And anytime that I do a Sabbath, you're going to hear it because it's literally the whole point. So bear with me. But anyway, so it represents the start of spring. So it's marking the beginning, rebirth, growth, and renewal as the earth begins to awaken. It's linked to pregnancy and birth of lamb, symbolizing new life and potential. If you get pregnant right now during Imbolc, when do you have your baby? What is that? Is it February, March, October, maybe? So you have a Libra, an Aquarius makes a Libra. Okay, first of all, that's freaking darling because don't even get me started. So Aquarius talks about like standing up for other people. Humanitarian is a big keyword for Aquarius. Justice for others. And then Libra, the scales, it's the lawyer, it is justice. And they're just like Sorry, I just had a moment. That's the first time I've clicked to that. Love to see it, and it's on camera. But anyways, so this is the end of winter. The days are getting longer, but winter still holds its grip, signaling the transformation from cold, dark season to the brighter, warmer days ahead. So maybe Texas just really gets to experience that grip. I'm not going to say anything further. Anyways, moving on. So the goddess Bridget in this holiday. So who was she? She's a prominent figure in Celtic mythology and one of the most revered deities in the Tafadi. So again, I'm going to pronounce these so wrong, and I just said that completely wrong because I even have in my notes how to freaking pronounce that, and it's pronounced Tuatha De Dana. Guess whose Celtic ancestors are just talking smack right now? Me. If you look up the Celtic path, it has a really fancy name, and it's the race of their gods in the ancient Irish tradition. And I'm gonna butcher it, and it's puts a lot of dishonor on me and my crops, my crops being my pantry. But they know that I try my best. And sometimes that's not enough. I'm just kidding. But anyway, so she's the daughter to one of the oldest gods in that race and is considered very powerful, multifaceted goddess, deeply connected with both the physical and the spiritual realm. She's a fertility goddess, strongly associated with it, both nature and human life. She governs the cycles of birth, growth, renewal, making her a key figure in agricultural and seasonal cycles. And her energy aligns with the Imbolc themes of rebirth and renewal. So if you're trying to get pregnant, call on my girl. Right. I worked with Bridget and all my deities. I worked with her one season. I don't, she's not one of my main Patreons. I have six of them. Wait, two, three, four, five, six, yeah, six of them. Um, four females for the corners, and then two males. So I worked with her one season though. Wonderful spirit. Love her energy so much. But yeah, if you're trying to get pregnant, call on to the goddess of Bridget because she's gonna have your back. She's a fire goddess. She's linked with the fire element, not just the physical sense of hearth and warmth, but also the fire of inspiration, which fuels creativity, imagination, as she's considered the goddess of poetry, and many poets and bards would invoke her name for inspiration before composing their works. I love a good bard. Her other skills of blacksmithing, crafts and metalworking associate with fire is reflected in her role as a patroness of transformative crafts, which shape raw material into something new. Love to see it. She's also linked with healing and protection, using fire as a symbol of transformation and purification, whether in the context of physical healing or spiritual growth. In the role, she embodies the balance of creativity, creation, and destruction, as fire can both sustain life and clear away the old to make way for new space. With the Christians, love them so much. Over time, Bridget was Christianized into Saint Bridget. She's also known as Bridget of Kildare. Saint Bridget became a nun in the early 5th century, founding a monastery in Kildare, Ireland, around 450. What would you say? 450? How would you? I hate it when we pronounce dates like that. AD. Um, she was known for her charitable work, feeding the poor, healing the sick, and establishing schools and churches. Many traditions surrounding Saint Bridget minor those of the pagan goddess, such as her role in caring for the community, her association with fire, her roles as a protector. Her feast day is February 1st, which coincides with Imbolc, continuation of the sacred energy of renewal and light. So love to see her. But in the modern times, this is a awakening of spring, a time when the earth begins to stir from the winter's rest. It's about, again, rebirth, growth, return of light, and a focus on honoring the earth's renewal, increasing daylight, and the first signs of life emerging in nature, such as budding of plants and the birth of animals like lambs. A traditional offering of milk and cream is made to honor Bridget or the Fae folk, the fairies of nature spirits. Milk represents nourishment and fertility of the earth, while pouring it onto the ground or leaving it outside is a symbolic gesture of giving back to nature. Literally pouring one out for your homies with milk. This offering often ties the themes of abundance, as it is the time when animals like sheep begin to lactate and signals of renewal of life and fertility. Look, my co-host has arrived. I guess you can see her. She's very needy. Anyways, this offering also ties to the themes of abundance, as it is a time when animals like sheep begin to lactate and again, renewal and fertility. Sorry, Beatrice, you threw me off my game and she's purring so loud. I wish I could put the mic on this. Um, while milk and cream is very a big offering, I also like to include honey and eggs. Again, eggs for fertility, honey for abundance, love, hearth, fire element, warmth. I mean, there's so many reasons to use honey. And so I have before set out an offering, and I had on Bridget's altar when I worked with her that one season. I took the eggs. I had eggshells because as a witch, I collect eggshells. When I collect them, it's typically like I crack eggs, I rinse them out, and then I throw them in a bowl, and then they sit there until I have time to one. First, I collect a big batch because I let them air dry. I clean them in soap, and then I fry them again, and then crush them down and put them in black salt. Um, so I had whole eggshells, like, cracked in half. So it was enough to like pour into. I poured honey into the eggshells and I set those out on her altar and outside. And I did pour out milk. I usually leave my my offerings. Um, next to my tree in my backyard. I have a big maple, and that's where I like to leave my stuff. But when I'm done, if I have larger food items like bread, um, meats, things like that, depending on, I will set that out in the front yard to give back to nature. I know a lot of people say you shouldn't give bread to animals, but I think me giving them some bread is, and they're not freaking ducks, I think is going to do them much better than finding Takis in a dumpster. So don't judge me. Anyway, so Bridget, she has some cakes. There's these traditional Bridget's cakes, and people will make those and leave them outside and offer to her. The cake is a gesture of hospitality, honoring her nurturing, protective qualities. It's also a way of inviting the goddess into your home, seeking her blessing for the year ahead, especially for good harvest, protection, and healing. Some traditions, including herbs and ingredients of this cake, like oats, honey, tie in further to the earth's energy. Spring cleaning is a big association with this time because this is the turning. We're getting close to spring, and I don't know about you. I've already started tapping into it, and I feel like that's Capricorn season because it's about organizing your life. And I spent the last weekend deep organizing my closet, and this weekend I get to do my garage. Yay! So spring cleaning, it isn't just about tidying up the house; it's a ritual. This time of year calls for both physical and spiritual renewal. So the act of cleaning symbolizes clearing away old energy and making space for new. It's a time to release things that no longer serve us, whether it's physical, clutter, emotional baggage, or old patterns. This ritual is deeply connected with the energies of purification, renewal, and its essential theme of Imbolc. Um, I always say when you are going to cleanse your house, no matter how you cleanse it, clean it first. Negative energy collects in clutter and dirt, and you need to clean it up, open up the windows, and not like open up the windows, but open up the blinds, let the light in. You don't always have to sweep out the front door and have the windows out when you cleanse because negative energy doesn't need open windows to get in. So it definitely doesn't need it to get out. But opening up the doors and the windows does help bring breeze in, freshen up the air. I do like too when the house gets a little stuffy, open up the front and back door and let the air cycle through, especially during cold seasons. It's really nice. Um, or when it's that really breezy morning part of no, I can't say summer because that's not Texas because 8 a.m. is hot as hell here. It's just as bad as 2 p.m. But anyways, but when it's a little breezy outside, I really do like to have the doors and windows open just enough to let the air cycle through. But it is not a requirement to cleanse. It really is not. But spring cleaning is really a big part of this season because we're preparing for the year ahead. We're getting our life together. We're organizing. We're looking at it. And that's not just, it is not just organizing our personal life on book. It's actually the house itself because how we live in our homes really reflects our day to day. And I know for a fact that I function better when my shit's organized. It's so nice to wake up in the morning and just get clothes and get the hell out of my closet and not be like, where is everything? Where are my shoes? I put a shoe rack in there. It's amazing. I feel like an adult. So go me. But if you're wanting to celebrate this holiday, and you want to do an offering, you can. There's also the tradition when it comes to bridge. Bridget is leaving out a scarf, a blanket, a hat, a jacket, some type of material, a sweater. If you leave it out on Bridget's day, she will bless it. So you can wear it when you're sick and it'll help you feel better and heal faster. I love that. Some people say that you should put out just a red colored material. I really don't care about color that much when it comes to those things. I think if you just leave out the item, she will bless it. And I just love the idea of like, I feel like shit. I'm gonna go wrap this special scarf around me and it's gonna make me feel better. So, but one of the big things about Bridget is her cross, the Bridget's cross. And you've probably seen it if you've seen pictures of pagan items and altars, and it's this like kind of X-shaped, square shape cross. And it has like a box in the middle, and you can see it's kind of braided because it is technically made with grass, long grass, which is hard to find in certain regions. So like I've made them before with hay because that's more common to come around in Texas than the tall grass, at least in the suburbs, babe. Like I'm out here in the burbs, so I don't have the pasture and the tall grass in it. So we used hay, and it worked. It was cute. You can also use corn husk, so tamales. You can get that shit at the grocery store. I do suggest wetting them because it might be better with molding them to have them wet because that's what I do when I make what's it called? Corn husk dolls. Sorry, my tongue tie just really got me there. But you usually soak them for a little bit in water, damp, pat them dry, and then work with them. But when you weave one of those from, rushes, reeds, you hang them in your home for protection and to honor the return of light. It symbolizes the balance of the earth and its elements, her powers of healing, growth, and renewal. You hang it above doorways or a place of significance to invite her energy into the space. I was really, really fortunate. One of my friends, very, very close friends, shout out Sam, I love you so much. She went overseas with her mom for a little vacation, and she brought me back a Bridget's cross from overseas, and it's sitting on my altar this year, and it is the coolest thing to look at because it's so like it's toit. It's just perfect and perfectly sized, and I have one, and then for it to be gifted. Ugh, they talk about like, oh, your tarot cards must be gifted and these things must be gifted. No, they don't have to be. They don't. They do not. Often it's more sacred to come upon the things on your own, but being gifted an item is very sacred and it's very special. So I honor the hell out of it, and I was so excited to send her a picture of it when it was sitting on my altar. So but more practical ideas for celebrating Imbolc outside of just making Bridget's crosses and leaving offerings is it really is cleaning, 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 cleaning. That's the biggest part of this holiday, I feel. So as you go through it, make sure that you're tapping into those traditions of just really, caring for yourself and your family around you. Because one of the things is working with younger children and moms. So check out your kids, check out your mom. By creating caring for just yourself and your family, it's a big, nod and gratuity for the life cycle itself, because that's what it's celebrating the Sabbath is. It's the cycle of life, and we're here at the beginning. And how do we start? Our moms, and with the kids, we get so wrapped up in the day to day that we forget about them, and in ways of just like the small wonder. So making bridges cross together, you're honoring the goddess and yourself. It's an act of nurturing form for both you and your family, but it's just a time that reflects those themes of motherhood and protection of the young and representing the energies of earth and the mother-child relationship. It's about honoring the cycle of life from birth to growth and fostering the nurturing energy that supports both the new beginnings and personal development. So try to hang out with your mom. Make sure that you're dialing back into those old traditions if you can with her. But yeah, so with Imbolc, it's this reflection period. It's a time to honor new beginnings, the returning of light, and the waking of earth. And I know I've said that many times this podcast because that's what it's all about. This midpoint between spring and winter, and it's the first stirring of life and it's all in front of us. I really get excited, and it's so silly when we get to Imbolc and also Ostara. When I start seeing flowers blooming, I lose my mind. I'm like, oh my God, life, growth, Aries season. One of my favorite things with Aries season is that it's in that peak blossoming season. And if you look at how a dandelion comes out and how it grows, it looks like the Aries symbol. So, and that's a March, so it's February, March, Aquarius, Aries. So you should definitely look at how that looks, just because it's really fascinating. But this period of hope and renewal symbolizes the potential of growth, transformation, and fresh starts, and it's an ideal moment to reflect on you and what you want to nurture and bring to life as the earth begins to cycle in its growth. It invites you to connect with this energy by considering how you incorporate the spirit of renewal and growth into your daily rituals. You can align with the light of the season by setting new intentions, practicing self care, or cleaning both your space physically and emotionally. Take the time to plant seeds, whether they are literal, like in your garden. I know my mother is doing a lot of sowing right now for seeds, but also symbolic, like personal goals and creative projects. I started a podcast. Go figure. But these rituals could include lighting a candle for Bridget, making an offering like milk and cream and honey, and simply spending time with nature, your mother-like figures in your life, nurturing figures in your life. But it's just a way of connecting with the Earth's awakening energy. So, with this Iron Bulk, I hope you go forward a little bit lighter and with a lot of grace. But until next episode, may the sun guide you and the earth ground you. Say goodbye, Beatrice.